Hello my kings, queens, and fellow non-binary leaders, and welcome back to Nerdy Nekama. Today we're gonna get started with the season finale of An Uncertain Future, Season 2. I'm super excited. I hope you will like this, and I hope that you enjoyed the journey so far. After this episode, this story will be on hiatus for a while. However, I do intend to make a third season, so I hope I'll see you back for that. And now, let's go. He hurried through the process of changing and taking a quick shower. Usually, he and Hinata, along with Thomas, took their time distracting themselves with banter, stupid jokes, and useless arguments, and pulling others into their mess occasionally. Today, the atmosphere was tense, and close to no words were spoken. Bokuto wanted to get to the hospital as soon as possible to convince himself of Hinata's state, and he wanted to hear his mates again, to cuddle with them and breathe in their calming scents to soothe his worries. Yet, when he tried calling Kuro, no one answered. He attempted Kenma next, but nothing. Conflicted, he stared at his phone, a new kind of worry adding to his already agitated state. He hesitated to call Akaashi, since he knew the Amiga was meeting up with Suga today, and he didn't want to disrupt that by worrying him as well. It was probably nothing anyway. Kuro and Kenma might just have fallen asleep or were watching a movie and didn't notice their phones announcing his call. Ready to go, Bokuto? Mian gave him a short pat on his shoulder to bring him back into reality, and he nodded. He would figure this out later. Surely, if something was wrong, they would have called. Though, they didn't when Kenma dropped. They weren't far from the hospital anymore when Bokuto's head suddenly perked up and his scent soured further in distress. The usual oakwood smell was drowned out by anxiety, much worse than before. Bokuto? What is going on? Are you alright? Kenma and Kuro are close by. They're stressed and in pain. They're afraid. His voice shook and his eyes widened. What if they are at the hospital as well? What if something happened and that's why I couldn't reach them? Oh god, what about the pup? Is the pup alright? And Kenma, and... Kaotaro, calm down. Deep breaths. Can you do that for me? Just listen to my breathing. He tried. He hadn't even noticed how frantic his breathing had become and how much his throat and chest had started to ache. The ace focused on his captain, listening to the calm and regular rhythm of his breath, and tried to imitate it. That's good. Now, one by one. What is going on? What pup? Bokuto flinched as he noticed his mistake. Hesitantly, he replied. Kenma's pregnant. He dropped once before. I'm worried he might have again, and the pup... It's okay. I get it. It makes perfect sense to be worried, but I need you to stay calm. Bokuto nodded slowly. Okay. Now, you said they are here. What do you mean by that? I can sense the emotions stronger now through the bond. They have to be close by. He sounded almost defeated, and Mian had a vague idea of what horrid images were occupying his mind. Alright, we'll ask for them at the reception once we arrive, and move on from there. We can figure this out. No false promises, just reassuring truth. Mian never sugarcoated things, yet he still managed to calm him every time. His steady presence was reassuring in itself. The receptionist told them that without a doubt there were no new patients under the name Kozume Kenma or Koro Tetsuro. However, upon hearing a description of them, he remembered two people fitting just that here to visit someone. Mia nodded gratefully and asked for Hinata this time. He told them the room number, but added to keep the visit short. There was already a bit too much going on. Sure You're Sure was popular. The whole elevator ride up, Bokuto couldn't stand still, anxious as the fear trickling into their bond increased. The doors opened a little too slowly for his taste, exposing a distressed Kuro who looked like he was just about to leave but stopped dead in his tracks when he saw Bokuto. Oh, thank the gods. He rushed over, and before the ace could so much as blink, strong arms wrapped around his middle and caught up Ertie's face against his neck. Bokuto reciprocated the gesture without a second thought, closing his eyes to get lost in the sensation of having his mate safe and sound in his arms. They snapped open again when he heard a whisper of his name echo from behind them. Over Kuro's shoulder he spotted Kenma, his eyes filled with tears and red from crying. It broke his heart, yet seeing him on his feet and well eased his worries. He gently removed himself from the hug and went to pull Kenma into an embrace, who immediately accepted. Go. Show you this. I know. I'm so sorry. His voice was laced with pain and hints of guilt because he felt the relief flooding his system upon holding Kenma this close, something Hinata's mates didn't experience ever since the accident. Bokuto, Mian, thanks for visiting. He almost didn't recognize Tsukishima's voice with how devoid of emotions it sounded. When he looked up, the gold brown eyes seemed empty, only disrupted by flickers of pain and regret. Kenma turned away as though he couldn't bear it. I'm sorry. Again, it wasn't your fault, Kenma. The Omega's grip on Bokuto's shirt tightened. The Alpha's gaze wandered between them, confused. Begrudgingly, he allowed Kenma to retreat from the hug and curl up into one of the uncomfortable hospital chairs. He didn't look at them. His eyes wandered between the door to Shoyo's room and the white-green walls, as though he wished to look away, but couldn't. Kuro sat down next to him, leaving a few centimeters between them and motioning for Bokuto to proceed. Bokuto followed Mian into the hospital room hesitantly. Cold sweat ran down his neck, and he started to nervously fumble with his fingers. The first thing he recognized was the bright orange hair. The midday sun seemed to get caught between the strands, and a slight breeze deriving from the open window set them into motion. It looked playful, lively even. It didn't fit the rest of the scene unfolding in front of him. Hinata lay unmoving on the sterile white hospital bed. Only his chest rose and fell. There were tubes and needles in his veins and cables attached to machines monitoring him closely. His expression was peaceful. If it weren't for the equipment hooked up to him, the ace would have been convinced he was just sleeping. He tried to say something, but his voice was gone. He wouldn't know what to say anyway. Slowly he turned away, the sight in front of him too painful to bear. His gaze fell onto a small assembly of odd but adorable plushies. They caught his attention as he tried to decipher the meaning behind them. Miwa brought them. Tsukishima's voice tore him from his thoughts. When she heard of the accident, she came to visit and brought them to lighten the mood. Thought that Shoya would like them once he woke up. He loved them. His voice almost broke. A sad smile spread on the blonde's face. Yeah. You better wake up soon or we won't have much space to live in anymore. She brings one every time. And Natsu does her best to fill the room with flowers, if they'd let her. Do not. Bright orange hair appeared in the doorframe, put up in a ponytail and spreading out in wild curls. She pouted at Tsukishima's remark, yet her counter wasn't very convincing considering that she carried a neatly arranged bouquet in her hands. The blonde smiled and watched her as she exchanged the old flowers on the windowsill. He turned to Bokuto again while Mian and Natsu started talking about trivial things to distract themselves. Mian had seen her quite a couple of times when she came to their games, and cheered on her brother, and even accompanied Hinata to one of her games as well. I'm sorry about what happened. The alpha nodded slowly, but otherwise paid his remark no mind. Listen, Bokuto, Kenma blames himself for this, because Sho got injured on his way back from yours after bringing him home. I tried telling him that it's not his fault, but I doubt he believes me. Bokuto gulped. He wanted to take Kenma and shake him until he realized that it wasn't his fault, yet at the same time he understood him very well. The moment Tsukishima mentioned when it happened, he thought if he had been just a bit more persistent in convincing him to stay the night at their place, this probably wouldn't have happened. I just wanted to let you know. Please make sure he realizes that this isn't his fault. Shoya wouldn't want him to blame himself, and none of us do, so it's pointless. I'll try my best. He nodded again and straightened his back. Something shifted in his expression. This is probably a bad time to ask, but is Kenma carrying? His scent changed. Bokuto looked at him surprised, but gave a short nod to answer the question. Something like a smile, a real one, almost devoid of sadness, spread on Tsukishima's lips. Congratulations. It felt utterly wrong under these circumstances, but he thanked him nonetheless. You know, we haven't decided on this yet, but I'm sure Kenma would want Sho to be the godfather once the pup is born. His eyes widened, and for a moment there was truly nothing but mild joy reflected in them. He'd love that. Akaashi? Are you okay in there? Suga gently knocked on the door to the bathroom Akaashi fled into after the nausea had become too strong. He was sitting on the ground next to the toilet, exhausted, his throat burned with the lingering acid. Akaashi? He couldn't muster up the courage to speak, unsure of what to say. Should he apologize? Was he fine or okay? It was hard to tell. He didn't particularly feel sick anymore. It went as fast as it came, yet there was still the lingering discomfort. He wasn't sure what to make of it. I'm coming in now. The worry was evident in Suga's voice. No wonder after he made such a rushed escape and refused to answer. He pulled himself up by the sink, not having quite found a balance when Suga was already there to support him. What happened? He rubbed over his back soothingly and held him upright as he washed out his mouth over the sink. I think Koda was right. I just got really nauseous for a moment. He hated this. With all the stress they already had, why did he have to develop something like pseudocesis? Suga, on the other hand, frowned. Akaashi could see in his eyes that he didn't think the theory was sufficient. As soon as the dark-haired Omega was stable and had sat down on the edge of the bathtub, Suga opened the cabinet above the sink, searching for something. Here, I think you should take one of these. Akaashi stared dumbfounded at the white and lavender box the teacher handed him. The meaning only slowly sank in. A pregnancy test? Take it. Just to be sure. Just because Kenma got pregnant doesn't mean that you couldn't as well. But we haven't... Well, there wasn't a chance ever since Kenma found out and left. His cheeks burned up. It could have happened shortly before, and you didn't notice the early symptoms because of everything that was going on. Or maybe you blamed them on your bond, thought they were an echo of how Kenma felt. I'm not saying that has to be it. Could be right. But better be safe than sorry, don't you think? He nodded slowly and read through the instructions while Suga left the room. When it said to wait, he put the test on the sink and followed him to the hallway, leaning against the wall opposite to him. How long? 3 minutes. He started to nervously fumble with his fingers. The apartment suddenly turned silent, making his thoughts louder in return, until he noticed something. Suga, why did you have the test? A mild smile spread on the oldest face. Tests, actually. He sighed. Well, we're not actively trying for a baby, but I have stopped taking my birth control. Of course, the others know that. We'll just see what happens. We decided that we're ready to expand our family. We'd like if it happened now, but we're also fine waiting a little longer. So, we put it into the hands of fate. He laughed. If the baby fever gets any worse, we can still try more actively, but for now, we're content with this. Congratulations. He looked at Akaashi, his expression gentle and kind. Thanks. Life is strange, huh? But I'm sure we can manage, all of us, I mean. And if you ever need help, we'll always be there for you, especially when you need a babysitter. I can't wait to meet your pup. I'm sure it's gonna be adorable. Like, can you imagine little mini Kenmas and Kaashis running around? A smile tugged up Akaashi's lips, because yes, he could imagine it, and Suga's excitement was contagious. You're gonna make a great dad one day, Suga. He faltered and looked at the young gun in surprise before gently pulling him into his arms. Thanks, Kaashi. That means a lot to me. The timer interrupted them, and suddenly all his anxiety returned as he stepped back into the room. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and perhaps subscribe so you won't miss out on anything in the future, like when season 3 comes out. And yeah, I know it's maybe a little bit unfair to end this on a sorta cliffhanger, but it wasn't originally supposed to be this long of a fanfic, let alone 3 seasons. Tell me your favorite quote under the pinned comment and I'll make sure to work on the 3rd season as soon as possible. A special thanks as always goes out to my nerdy Neko, and a super special thanks goes out to Video CH, Kai, Jay, Lashal, Lux, Elizabeth, Melissa, Sakura, Azara, Melina, and Neko. Thank you so much. I hope I pronounced your names correctly. Thank you for joining. They just joined recently and they get this video already over a month in advance. So if that sounds interesting to you, also check out the join button in this video. Here's more content and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.